glad you live in New York. It's a rough business. Just your run-of-the-mill flying agent movie. Thanks so much for watching. Can I answer any questions?
Who wants to get started?
Or not?
Yes, Mark. Who was the young actress? How did you find her? And how long was the process of finding somebody to do that?
Who is the young actress? Her name is Saxon Sharbino. I went to a couple of actresses at first when I had written it, young actresses like that. There's a couple of fantastic ones, and for some reason their families were very protective. Didn't feel that this was appropriate material. So in a way I thought that was kind of a blessing, because I wanted it to be someone that you couldn't possibly anticipate anything about. And my partner, who produced this movie, is a casting director for her day job. Her name's Mary Vernew. She does all of Darren Aronofsky's movies and David O. Russell's movies, and she's a brilliant woman. And I saw people for weeks, and I thought I was going to maybe have to shut down and not make the film, because it just doesn't work unless you find somebody like Saxon. And Mary found Saxon and brought her in, and her life, like a lot of things in the movie, kind of became art imitating life, as you can imagine, and except for the flying part so far. Yeah, so far. And she had just gotten off the bus from Dallas. She'd gotten a small part in this Kiefer Sutherland show, and she had stories of her acting school in Dallas and crying class, which you had to pay a certain amount to be in. And she's remarkable, and she kind of walked in and read the scenes once or twice, and I noticed suddenly I was a lot better. And so I just hired her right off, and I think it's pretty special what she did. Anybody else here?
Yeah, how much time in the making was from the original conception, the idea, to the completed product?
Yeah,
and
sorry,
just one more final up to that. When you originally were writing the script to this, did you see yourself playing the lead?
I mean, I hear crickets when I'm going to talk, but I feel like it's in my mind. And I am close to losing it at this point, but that's somebody's ring, I'm hoping, right? Sure. Did I just tell a joke? I didn't know it. The question was, how long was it from inception to this moment? I think I wrote it 3 years and change ago, and tried to make it, and then the Marvel guys kept putting my character in other movies. And then suddenly they killed me, and so I found I had time to do this. I had to kind of stop a couple times because of that, and I was doing a play here a year ago, this last December, an Ethan Coen play, not the 3 on Broadway, I was downtown. And I had to fly back and do one day, the scene with Felicity and I in the hallway, to save our tax credit, which we then consequently lost. So then it took another 7 months. We made it last fall. We made it last October, and kind of into the beginning of November, and then I've been basically editing it and begging people from Marvel movies to help me do these wings. And they came through in a big way. Yeah. Sorry.
As a filmmaker and an actor, this is the second time you've seen it shown in front of an audience, correct?
Mm-hmm. I didn't stay this time. I couldn't take it.
I was going to say, what's the part of the movie that you are most anticipate a crowd reaction and or surprised by?
That's a really good question. So good, in fact. But I don't know. No, I don't know. It's one of those things. I thought I was gonna. My first film, Choke, was kind of dark, and it was from a novel, and it was about a sex-addicted colonial theme park worker. And I thought, this will be a nice fantasy. I'll adapt this. There's already a lot of good lines and some really funny gags about a sex addict, and I'll do it, and it won't, cost me anything emotionally. And it turned out to be massively autobiographical in a way that I didn't realize, and then had to do business with. So I said, it was 25 days, and it nearly killed me, and I was in 3 scenes, and I swore I'd never act in another one of my movies, and I would never do anything in less than 30 days. And I was in every scene of this, and we shot it in 20 days. And I thought I was going to write a little comedy. I was doing some movies with child actors, and I thought it was funny, that their agents were kind of like minor leaguers, but really sweet, and looking for the kind of right 10-year-old who could take them to the big time. That just seemed demented to me. And I thought it would be funny. And I think it still is funny, but this draft just came pouring out of me, and it was so, it turns out I have more ambiguous feelings about my new home than I was aware of, and again, it started to be not about show business to me. It became, well, it was. I think it's a brutal business, and I also really love movies. And I also started to think that it wasn't about the business, it was about the ways we get hurt, and how you kind of, I believe that, you kind of get stuck in orbit of your core. I'm going to go into California shrink speak now. Okay? You get stuck around reenacting, recapitulating that until you either get sucked in and burned up, or you get free of it. And I felt like that emotional part of the story I was surprised to find there. I was surprised to find that there was noir. I was really surprised to find that the ending had wings. I didn't know where any of that came from. But I've ignored kind of unconscious impulses before, and never been happy that I did. So I kind of, and my partner Mary was like, don't be a wuss. This is the movie you wrote, it's totally challenging. Go with it, and I did, and I felt so kind of core and connected to it that I had meetings with 2 directors and 1 actor. I didn't tell them what I was meeting with them about, but I had the script. I couldn't give it to them. I couldn't bring myself. I turned 50 and I was like, no, wait a minute, this is about a loser who can't quite get the real break he wants, who's getting old. It's me. Like, it's his own break. I couldn't give it to somebody else. And I also, it wasn't just that kind of narcissistic ambition, although I don't want to deny that that's part of it. It was also this other thing where I had done this little movie of Much Ado About Nothing with Joss Whedon at his house during the 10 days he had off between making The Avengers and editing it, which I thought was psycho. But it was a big party at his house, and it became the movie, and it was amazing. And I saw that, and I became certain that the chaos of trying to do all those jobs and being in over my head, it became like this thing where I'd been thrown out into the roller derby naked with no skates. And that kind of felt like Howard. And I felt like it became the movie in a way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, at the back, no orange. It might be red, I can't see it.
You surrounded yourself with an incredible cast. What's it like working with, so many great actors?
It was kind of the first thing that made me feel like this wasn't ludicrous. That I went to these people I'd worked with, and me and Felicity Huffman and Bill Macy formed the Atlantic Theater Company 5 blocks from here, and had done a lot of plays together. And they signed up, and Sammy Rockwell and I did a play. Tell me that mic went off, and I'm not just. I had a moment there. I thought this is the end. And no wings. Luckily, I worked at the Atlantic Theater Company down the street. So tell me if you can't hear me in the back row, don't kick me out. I went to Sam Rockwell. He and I had done a play, a really tragic naked play at the Orpheum many years ago, and he was in my first film, Choke. And it's not the kind of role he needs to do, but he signed up and became a producer and made the movie happen. And I just kind of got this profusion of generosity. Molly Shannon was a classmate of mine at NYU. Allison Janney had done a bunch of West Wings with me, and people signed up, and I was kind of suddenly, my job was just about, it got a lot easier on the one hand because I could just act with those people. Hello. And my job was basically just to kind of sit there and react to them, and it really got me a long way. And at the other hand, I had so much pressure to kind of live up to the performances around me, including Saxon. I was like, hey kid, I'm going to put you on the map. And then I was like, oh my God, she's going to blow me out of this scene. Yeah, any other questions? Yes?
Did you consult other agents while you were writing the script?
I did talk to a couple of agents. In fact, I talked to a guy who was Miley Cyrus's agent for a while. And he told me the story about starting out working in his garage, and every time the door would go up, he would have to make up something about why the door was making so much noise. He'd have to close it when the garbage trucks came by. And there's a lot of stories, this guy found that kid, I'll never forget the day he found that kid. And it's kind of like they got baseball cards, but it's like 9-year-old girls and boys. I had a thing that I made up that I'm sad I cut, which was that Aldo had invented a software called All Grown Up. where you could put the kid's headshot in and it would tell you if they were going to be cute or not after puberty. And I said that to this guy and he's like, it exists. And yes?
You had all these other projects going on while you were making this movie. How did you keep that momentum to keep going back to the film, you know, picking up where you left off or coming back to certain parts of the film, you know, because you're being pulled in a lot of other directions.
I did. I was doing other projects. I would go do, you know, I think I wrote it before the Avengers, and then the Avengers was such a beautiful thing, Joss. They were like, you know, they called me and said, really, Joss wasn't kidding. You have a big part in the Avengers. And I was like, this is fantastic. And they said, yeah, it's what happens to you is what brings the Avengers together. And I thought, I better start working on Trust Me. So I went off and did that, but there's plenty. The downtime stretches are just ridiculous if you're an actor. If I just was an actor, personally, I would go crazy. So I did a lot. This was the thing I cared about most. There's nothing funner to me, if it doesn't kill you, than trying to make a movie with friends of yours where you get to kind of work together and craft the thing and find the tone. And it was my favorite thing. Everything else was kind of my day job, and this was the thing I really loved doing the most.
We have time for two more.
Sir.
So you mentioned before that you kind of started writing and you thought you were writing a comedy. And sort of at the beginning of the movie, you have the shot of your character bleeding, so you sort of know there is this impending doom, which I think kind of, you know, keeps the audience knowing that, you know, as funny as it is at the top, there might be some drama ahead.
Did it do that for you?
Well, yeah. Well, when did you decide to put when you were writing?
It's a really good question.
Why did you put that in? I mean, were you wrestling with whether?
I had a weird experience. Okay, we're going to talk now. I feel close to you guys. I want to talk. I wrote this movie and it felt like one movie to me. Many people who read it thought I was out of my mind. They felt like it's just a comedy and then it gets dark. What the hell are you doing? And it felt absolutely true to me. I don't know. I can't make a movie that I think they're going to like. You'll fail. All I could do is this felt true to me. Things feel funny and then they aren't funny anymore. There's a way that you laugh and it opens you up and then your heart breaks. And that felt right to me. That said, the turn dark is sharp. And I didn't want to lose anybody. I'm not out to make my movie and go to hell. I want to connect with people. The fact that there was suddenly wings in it, I don't know. It just felt completely right to me. I don't know where it came from. That's never happened to me before or since. Suddenly someone wrote wings all over the page, and I don't know what the hell that is. But I knew it felt right. And I think it's one of the beautiful things about getting a little older is you kind of don't take that lightly. It must have come from somewhere. And more and more it feels like a dream. I think I'm like Howard. More and more my dream life and my actual waking life seem mixed. Maybe just one day I'll wake up and I'll be in the dream and that'll mean I'm gone. I'm really opening up a little too much, aren't I? So to answer your question without going into the next screening, I knew the parts that just touched me hard, and that didn't sound right. So I went with those. I put wings earlier. I let his fantasy life bleed in. I started to show the movie to a couple of friends, and they were like, whoa, whoa, I thought it was a comedy. So I cut out some of the funnier stuff. And I had some enigmatic stuff that was always in the scripts. That was this guy, and he seemed to be rising. But I took the scenes from the end of the movie in these shots, and I put them at the beginning, and it was a whole new ballgame. And all of a sudden, the composer knew what to write. And all of a sudden, his score over some of those earlier scenes had the feeling of where we were going. And it was always this dynamic. How much of the sadness at the end can we put in the beginning that won't kill the comedy at the beginning? And how much can you keep some of that kind of warm-hearted feeling at the end? And so that was a decision in editing. This was different than my first film in that so much of what the film became had to do with finding that balance in the editing room. I had an amazing editor, and I got to go in there and see that my DP had figured this out long before I did. And I kind of shot it in a way that really, it was one movie. So, I mean, I hope it didn't throw you, the ending. Good, I'm really glad it made my day. One more question, sir.
Amazing movie.
Thank you.
I love seeing the journey that all the characters went through and the change. You've done a lot of acting and you've directed and you wrote the screenplay. Is there one of those, and you're involved in the editing, is there one of those that really feeds you creatively more? Is it the writing or the?
That's a really good question. Does one of them feed me more? No, I don't know. I feel lame. I have no good answer for this, and I get asked it all the time. I don't know. I don't feel like a super control freak. My wife would argue that. When you're an actor, you're part of somebody else's. I always say you're a song on somebody else's mixtape. And I'm a DJ, man. You know, like in old school, like or like Wheels of Steel. I said to some guy, like, "What are you talking about?" I guess it's all compact discs now. No, we don't have those anymore. I studied. I was a ne'er-do-well who lived in the East Village and worked at the Guggenheim Museum. Who had quit college and was really just living in New York to go to the Mud Club. Nobody. And then I went back to NYU because I heard they would overlook your grades from your first college if you could get past the audition. And I got in, and it was miserable. And then a friend of mine who'd been in my Bad New Wave band in Ohio, who now runs the Atlantic Theater Company Acting School, Mary McCann, said, I'm in this class with this unknown actor, Bill Macy, and David Mamet, the playwright, who had just written Glengarry Glen Ross. And I got in with these guys, and they had come up in Chicago with Steppenwolf, and everybody did everything. You direct this one, you act in that one, you write in that one. And it became this kind of holistic thing where you really cared about telling stories. And if I ever just was, I like being in the game. I like the visceral thing of acting so much. I would be so sad if I couldn't do it. But then if I'm doing that too much, I need to, and I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky that I get to do this and that you guys come to watch it. So thank you so much. And,